1-800-989-5014 or go online to granitestoneset.com. That's 1-800-989-5014 or go to granitestoneset.com.
In Memphis, Tennessee, day 2 of Billy Ray Turner's murder trial. Turner accused of killing former NBA star Lorenzen Wright. But in the middle of this case, Lorenzen's ex-wife, Shara. What was her role in this alleged murder plot, and will she take the stand?
Do you believe they're getting a party today?
I do not.
What do you believe the party is?
I believe that they were using that as code for the killing Lorenzen Wright.
On the docket tonight in Chula Vista, California, mother of 3, Maya Miliete, has been missing for more than a year. She has never been found, but investigators say her husband, Larry, had a spell cast on Maya and has charged him with her murder.
As December of 2020 came, those messages to spellcasters were a lot more threatening. He was asking for May to become incapacitated, for May to be in an accident, to have broken bones so that she could stay at home, thus displaying his homicidal ideations to harm May.
Plus, the NYPD sends out a wanted poster for a woman wanted for being involved in prostitution and theft, but they put the wrong person on the poster. And now that Instagram influencer is suing the NYPD for $30 million. Tonight's 13th juror question: how much do you think the case is worth? Buckle your seatbelts. This hour of closing arguments starts right now. Welcome to Closing Arguments. I'm Vinnie Politan. We're going to begin with some breaking news. Please sit down. Get ready, folks, because this is the Class 4 felony. Class 4 felony that will not end. I am talking, of course, about Jussie Smollett. Jussie Smollett, who you saw right here on Court TV, being convicted of a hate crime hoax. Convicted at trial. Then you saw him sentenced here on Court TV, sentenced to 150 days in the Cook County Jail. Not a great place to be. One of the roughest, toughest jails in the entire country. But that was his sentence. Now, you remember watching it here on Court TV, that sentencing. At the end, something happened that is very significant, kind of went under the radar a little bit, but really important for the breaking news that is happening tonight. So I want to take you back inside the courtroom. Pay close attention, especially to his attorneys.
Yes, Judge.
Yes, Ms. Bill.
The defense would wish to present a motion to reconsider sentence and file it in stanter.
It is timely filed.
Thank you, Judge.
And let me say, I've obviously considered the sentence at great length. And it's timely filed, so it's preserved for purposes of appeal. Motion to reconsider sentence is respectfully denied. All right, defendants remanded to the custody of sheriff. Court is adjourned.
I am not suicidal.
Stop laughing about facts.
I am not suicidal, and I am innocent. I could have said that I was guilty a long time ago.
Okay, there was another moment where the 2 attorneys at the end asked the judge to suspend the sentence while the appeal was pending. Then they asked for a stay of the sentence pending the appeal. Judge denied it. You saw what happened. Jussie Smollett was marched out of the courtroom directly to the Cook County Jail. But that request is what we're talking about tonight, because they went over the head of the trial judge to the appellate court. We've got some breaking news tonight. Court TV legal correspondent Joy Lim-Nakrin is with us tonight. Joy, is Jussie Smollett free tonight?
We don't know yet if he's actually free, but he is ordered to be freed, I should say. The appeals court ultimately agreed with his attorneys. As you said, his attorneys went over the head of the trial court judge, and they filed that appeal. Their argument essentially has 2 components. One is that if he actually serves that 150-day jail sentence, pending the appeal, then he would have done the whole thing by the time that the appeal's complete, right? And number two, remember, as we discussed here on Court TV earlier this week, there were grave concerns about his safety, according to his legal team, according to his family as well. Remember, his family member reported that they received an anonymous call threatening to sodomize Jussie, and it was a really chilling phone call that they got that we talked about, with kind of evil laughter, referencing a famous case from the 1990s of a man sodomized with a broomstick by a New York City police officer in custody there. In addition, they had cited those social media threats, which they described as vicious. They cited his compromised immunity and concerns over COVID. They cited mental health concerns about how he was being held as well. Ultimately, all of those reasons, for all of those reasons, the judge in the appeals court decided Jussie's attorneys are right, that he should be released, that jail is not the appropriate place for him to remain while his appeal is ongoing, right?
So what does he have to do to get out now? I mean, they're just not going to open up the doors?
$150,000 personal recognizance bond.
Okay, so actually he can just walk out the door, and if he doesn't show up, then he owes him money. So can that, and it may happen tonight? Is there anything happening later? I understand there's a press conference.
There's a press conference, and of course, you're going to have it live here on closing arguments, because we're expecting that's going to happen in the next 25 minutes. In fact, we've been in touch with the attorney for Jussie, of course. Still not clear if he's, maybe still in jail, maybe he's being processed and going on his way out. Maybe he's already out, but we'll find out very soon.
Yeah, he may show up at that press conference. I think he will with his team. He's spoken before.
That's a good point. And certainly, he is an actor, so he knows a bit about drama.
Absolutely. Joy Lim Nakrin, thanks so much. Big breaking news tonight. Let's bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight in Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney Eklund Mercy. In Los Angeles, California, former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani. And in Phoenix, Arizona, criminal defense attorney, the attorney represented Jodi Arias, and the author of the book series, a great read, Trapped with Miss Arias. Kirk Nurmi is back with us. Great to see everyone tonight. What is going on here? I mean, I watched it with my own eyes. He was convicted. The judge was very specific about serving the sentence after watching and witnessing the entire trial. Eklund Mercy, is this a case of privilege tonight that we're talking about? Is this privilege?
No, the judge was wrong. The judge was wrong, and it was egregious. Jussie Smollett has no criminal history. So, yeah, he lied to police officers. If everybody who lied to the cops went to prison, we wouldn't have enough room. So he also added on probation, and there was retribution. So he gets to pay the city back. But you're also going to put jail time on top of it. It's egregious, and it was really bad. It's just really inconceivable. The man doesn't have any criminal history. It wasn't a violent act.
But they're not throwing out the sentence. They're saying he doesn't have to serve his sentence until after his appeal.
Yeah, so,
there are thousands and thousands of inmates across this country who have pending appeals who are sitting in the can.
But it's a non-violent offense, and I also have done that, in which you make a motion for a bond pending appeal. It's very normal, and it happens often. And it makes no sense, because if the sentence may potentially be shorter, then it takes time to appeal. It doesn't even make any sense. So I think the attorney did it right.
So if he had gotten a 5 years, a 15-year sentence, which was the max, then he shouldn't have been left out, but because he got less of a sentence, they let him out.
No,
it's interesting.
No, you still can make that motion
for
a bond pending appeal. He has no criminal history. Vinnie, there's no criminal history. This is the first time. Nobody died.
Yeah, I think he had a DUI. I think he had a DUI in California, maybe, but that's not a crime.
He has no criminal history, no extensive criminal history. And listen, we already know where he's at. He can't leave. Everybody knows his face. It absolutely is okay for him to have bond pending appeal. And I think that the prosecution should just do a sentence in which they agree to time served and have the probation.
Well, I don't think. Well, let's see. I think it was more of the judge than the prosecutor. Nima Rahmani, is this a case of privilege? This is a celebrity. This is a criminal defendant with lots of money. This is the most litigated Class 4 felony, I would guess, in the history of the state of Illinois.
This is absolutely a case of a celebrity getting preferential treatment. And frankly, it's a travesty of justice. And I have to respectfully disagree with Eklund. He does have criminal history. He has a DUI, and he gave false information to a police officer here in Los Angeles. He gave his brother's identity. So this is someone who has not only been convicted, he perjured himself. He lied to the jurors. They completely discredited his testimony. He was lucky to get 5 months. And the basis for appeal, I'm shocked that an appellate court there in Illinois, the first basis was the alleged threats, right? I mean, he's going to be safer in custody than out. Everyone knows who he is. You know, COVID, I mean, we're talking about COVID still, and his compromised immune system and the sham doctor's note that he got in support of his emergency appeal. And let's not forget, this was an emergency appeal. You know, there's no legal basis. There's no abuse of discretion. And really, the last argument that by the time the appeal went through the normal course that he already would have served his time, we all know that's not a legal basis for him to get bond post-conviction. There's no presumption of innocence. And frankly, his bond amount is literally the amount that he owes the Chicago Police Department and City of Chicago, and now he's not paying that either. I'm really disappointed. And those 2 out of 3 appellate justices tonight, I can't wait to read the dissent from the one reasonable judge.
Kirk Nermi.
Well, Vinnie, if there's any privilege, it comes from his money, but I'm going to disagree with Nima and Eklund and kind of take the middle ground here, because I think this appeal, this ruling to let him out, pending appeal, I should say, makes sense. It's 150 days. That he would not have a chance to, and Nima should know this, he's got Sixth Amendment rights that involve appeal as well. And the time that he serves in prison, in jail, cannot be refunded to him should he emerge victorious. So he has every right to challenge his conviction as well as the sentencing. And that time he serves in there cannot be refunded. So if there's any privilege, it certainly comes from the money of having attorneys that can advance this. But it just makes sense. And underlying this opinion, whatever we read in it, is going to be the idea that at least 2 of these justices believe that there's some merits to his appeal. If there was no merits to his appeal, either related to the conviction or related to the sentencing, I think they would have simply dismissed it and left everything in place and let them move forward and appeal while Mr. Smollett was in jail. But they're saying there's something to this, so we're going to let him out until we can take a closer look at it. And I think from that standpoint, consistent with the Sixth Amendment, it makes a lot of sense to me.
Eklund, I know you're itching to respond to all this. Go ahead.
No, I'm just like, substance abuse is real, and you just attested to that with regards to like, hey, the DUI prior to. So at this point, we have a whole litany of things that he's argued. He's argued that, hey, psychologically, he may have some issues. But let me tell you what he also has. The privilege actually hurt him, because had he been a regular person, none of this stuff would have happened. So like, had he been a regular person, and yes, he lied to police officers, and yes, I had defendants who have racked up a whole bunch of racked up a whole bunch of balances with regards to different cities. And let me tell you, they still don't get jail time. And it's but let me ask you,
Eklund, about the privilege aspect of this, though. Do you think, and this is going to be probably the big issue on appeal, like his original case, they call it Jussie Smollett 1, that got dismissed. Do you think the DA, Kim Foxx, would have given that to just any old defendant? Or do you think that maybe she gave it to him because he's Jussie Smollett, he's an actor, he's connected, and he absolutely was connected? Because that's going to probably be the best issue he has on appeal, is that the original prosecutor, before they had to bring in a special prosecutor, wasn't giving favors and just dismissing things with no consequences, let it go. So his privilege helped him off the beginning, because the original dismissal was because of his privilege.
No, I don't think, sometimes the original dismissal saved money. Sometimes you have to checks and balances. You have to look at your ROI, your return on investment. Hey, does it even make sense to proceed with this case, which may just end up in probation if we, or can we just dismiss it and go about our business? That money could have gone to the school system, but instead of we pushed through. We had people who it was days for that litigation. Sometimes we really have to look at the judicial economy of certain actions, and I do not believe that this was one of those cases that should have been in the courts for that long.
Well, speaking of resources, though, Nima, how about some of that $120,000 in overtime to catch some of the killers who are loose in Chicago? Right? I mean, the time that they spent on this case, they weren't spending on something else because of the spotlight that was put on this case by Jussie, by being so out in the public light, going on the interviews, putting the pressure on and shaming the city of Chicago and shaming the Chicago Police Department for not catching these two racist men who were walking through the streets of Chicago with a noose looking to lynch a black man.
Absolutely. There's hundreds of hours of Chicago PD time. You know, these alleged attackers had MAGA hats. You have Michelle Obama tweeting about it. And I don't think he got worse treatment because he's a celebrity, because here in California, we're prosecuting Sherry Papini, the Gone Girl, for doing the exact same thing. And guess what? She's in federal court, and she's probably going to get a lot more time. When you lie to the police, when you cause law enforcement to shift their attention from real crimes and real hate crimes that should be prosecuted to fake victims like Jussie Smollett, you absolutely deserve jail time, especially when you don't accept responsibility, you perjure yourself, you obstruct justice, you act like a fool after your sentence, you deserve to go to jail.
All right, let's hold it there. What we're gonna do, folks, we're expecting that press conference. We're gonna see if we get, if it happens around 8:30 or so Eastern time here. And we'll try to bring you all of that. We'll see if Jussie speaks himself. So stay tuned for that. But when we come back, big trial, big day in court today on Court TV. Billy Ray Turner, accused of the murder of Lorenzen Wright, NBA star. There he is. But there's another person who's really in the middle of all of this. And that is Lorenzen's ex-wife, Shara. We're going to talk about that when we come back.
Worthy.com.
Another big day in the trial that we're covering, the live trial we're covering here on Court TV, the murder of former NBA star Lorenzen Wright. Billy Ray Turner is the defendant in this trial. But this case is about more than Billy Ray Turner. It's really about Shara Wright, who is Lorenzen, the victim's ex-wife, because she's in the middle of everything. She's pleaded guilty, but then kind of reneged on it, saying, no, I take it back. I was pressured into the whole plea deal for facilitation, but she's still convicted of that. Today in the courtroom, again, her name is coming up. It will continue to come up throughout this trial. And one question lingering is, will she testify? And if so, what is she going to say? So take a listen. This is Sergeant Dennis Evans Jr. and one of the detectives, again, talking about communication between the defendant, the murder defendant in this case, and the victim's ex-wife, Shara.
I was asked to analyze the records and see how many times Billy Turner talked to Shara. For that, we found 186 basically voice calls, because we were basing this off of Billy Turner's records. So we found 186 calls between July 5th, 2010 and August 5th, 2010.
All right, so 186 voice calls between Billy Turner and Shara Wright over the course of 31 days, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Six days. Calls between Billy Turner and Jenny Martin.
We found 17 calls on Mr. Turner's records.
With the same date range, is that correct?
Yes, sir. The date range was July 5th to August 5th. We ran a timeline search on her iPhone for looking really for instant messages between her and Billy Turner. We used the date range of the 18th to the 23rd. What we noticed on that is she had deleted all the messages between herself and Mr. Turner between July 18, 2010 and July 23, 2010. And we're going to show how we can tell it was deleted in a second. But that's where we referenced that 295 messages, 83 of those were deleted, but we recovered those 83 messages that were deleted. Now, were there more messages? Probably, but our software only extracted and recovered and was able to parse out or analyze 83 of them. And we can see the body of the message reads, "I'm going to need my commission, ... Ren want you to bring your cards in the AM before he fly out, ... You owe me, boy, !"
This message was deleted by Ms. Wright?
If you look at the top left, the top arrow, there's a red X. The red X indicates that it was deleted and that our software was able to recover it.
Shara Wright is in the middle of all of this, right? She's the thing that links everyone connected to this case, right? She's the ex-wife of the victim. She's the cousin of the key witness for prosecutors in this case, Jimmy Martin, and she's calling the defendant here 6 times a day. What's going on there? Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter, live from Memphis, Tennessee tonight. Great to see you, Chanley. So let's talk about Shara here in the middle of everything. Is she texting Billy Ray Turner, on the night of the shooting?
She is texting Billy Ray Turner on the night of the shooting. In fact, the prosecution really focusing on a text she sends him 25 minutes before Lorenzen Wright calls 911, and we hear him being shot on that 911 call. That is the focus of that. But really today, the prosecution spending the afternoon having the cell phone data expert on the witness stand, Vinnie, really trying to tighten the connection between these alleged co-conspirators of Shara Wright, Jimmy Martin, and Billy Ray Turner, where they were and what they were saying to each other in those moments, those weeks, those months, and minutes leading up to the death of Lorenzen Wright. Let's take a listen, though, to earlier when Detective Browning talked about messages between Shara, Jimmy, and, of course, Billy Ray Turner.
When I'm looking at these text messages, there's a phone number that reads Edna J. Is that the contact name?
Correct.
And who was Edna J? Who is that person?
It's going to be Jimmy Martin.
Okay, so are there text exchanges from Jimmy Martin with Shara Wright in these documents?
There are.
Are there also text exchanges from Billy Ray Turner and Shara Wright in these documents?
Yes.
In particular, do these text exchanges include the text message that we saw yesterday sent about 25 minutes before the murder from Shara Wright to Billy Turner?
Yes, it does.
The prosecutors want this jury to believe that that message between Shara and Billy Ray Turner, that was the go time message. You owe me, let's get this done. And this apparently had been planned out for a long time, according to this messages back and forth between the alleged co-conspirators, Vinnie. Also revealing today with the cell phone expert is the fact that we know that Jimmy Martin, who is expected again to testify tomorrow, his phone was not pinging anywhere near the crime scene when the murder happened. He's in Batesville, Mississippi, but Billy Ray Turner's phone, Vinnie, was pinging in the same coverage area as Lorenzen Wright's phone when he placed that 911 call at the time of the murder.
Yeah, this is compelling evidence. But let's talk about Jimmy Martin a little bit. This is the cousin of Shara Wright. He's going to be the star witness, or one of the star witnesses for prosecutors. He got a deal. He got some level of immunity. He's also a convicted murderer, by the way. Were there messages, these coded messages between Shara Wright, or alleged coded messages between Shara Wright and her cousin, Jimmy Martin?
There were allegedly coded messages, and again, the witness on the stand and the prosecutors say that they were talking about a party or planning a party that was code for murdering Lorenzen Wright, and the jury was able to see and read some of these messages. Let's go through some of these. Now, these are, again, between Shara Wright and her cousin, Jimmy Martin. So the highlighted thread of messages on Facebook, that would be, it began about June 24th, 2010. That's Jimmy Martin. He goes by J Martin on Facebook. He's saying, no luck, still looking, when the party, or when is the party? Shara Wright on Facebook. She went by Shara Robinson at the time, and that was her married name at the time. She responds days later, July 4th, saying, you're driving me crazy with this party. We keep getting your days and times mixed up. What else do you need? Because I can't find another DJ this late. I want to do it before the 18th because we got the family reunion coming up. Give me a holler back. Well, this conversation, Vinnie, continues into July 2010 with Jimmy Martin expressing concern about the noise and the neighbors. And then 5 days before the shooting, Shara Wright asks, are we still on? And Martin says he is trying to tie up those loose ends. Also, though, there is a message sent 2 days after the shooting on a day prosecutors say Jimmy Martin actually traveled to Memphis to clean up the crime scene. Shara Wright sends, it could be construed as a cover-up message about this party plot. She says, I give up. Nothing is working out. I'm sick of this party. I will plan it after the reunion. So tomorrow, when Jimmy Martin does take the witness stand, Vinnie, we can expect him to be huge for the prosecutor in corroborating the state's theory here that they were actually talking about murder. They weren't planning a party, and really pointing the finger at Billy Ray Turner's part in that plot.
Okay, let's get back to Shara Wright, the ex-wife of the victim. You spoke to another one of her exes today?
I did. I spoke with Kelvin Cowens. He was in a relationship with Shara Wright for almost 3 years. The two of them met when he was interviewing her, Vinnie, on the 5th anniversary of Lorenzen Wright's death. He basically told me he fell in love with her. They had an instant connection. She moved with him and her 6 children to Houston, where they lived, like I said, for almost 3 years. So he's telling me about even after they broke up and the news that the weapon was recovered in the lake, that he was in communications with her. And at that moment, he started to realize and look back on their relationship, and maybe some red flags should have been raised earlier on, Vinnie. Let's listen. First time in your years of knowing her that red flags went up?
Absolutely. You see, up until that point, it was like I thought I was looking at someone that was grieving. You know what I mean? And so I mistaken that for, what it really was, because, you know, all of the crying at night, Cheryl would often go in our master closet and pray and cry herself to sleep. And I'm talking to, like, she'll go in there like 10 o'clock at night and stay in there till 2 in the morning. I have to go get her sometimes and be like, come on to bed. So it's just weird that the tables turn, and it's like, okay, I thought I was looking at grief, but this is guilt. You know what I mean? I didn't know that, you know, so. But that was my first time, to answer your question. That was my first time that the red flag went up, like, we're all, you know, they found the gun, we finna find out, and that wasn't her.
So Vinnie, he says what he misinterpreted as a grieving single mother was something he later found out was just guilt or coping with what she did and what she has pleaded guilty to. He also said he reached out to her when that murder weapon was found, thinking she would be happy, elated. Finally, they have a break in the case of her ex-husband's murder, and she reacted the exact opposite, Vinnie, he said, and that was really concerning to him. He knew then something wasn't right.
Yeah, she's in the middle of all of this, and I think the jury has to understand that for prosecutors to win this case. Chanley Painter in Memphis, another big day today. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Let's bring in our think tank, bring him back in. Eklund Mercy, Nima Rahmani, Kirk Nurmi with us. Kirk, let me ask you, Cheryl Wright plays such an integral part of this case. If I'm sitting in that jury box, I want to hear from her. I want to hear from her because she's the connecting part to all of this, and I guess the question for the jury is going to be, is she connected to just Jimmy Martin, or is she really also connected to Billy Ray Turner? And 186 phone calls tells me she's connected to this defendant.
Well, that may be so, but it's really hard to say. This, to me, this witness, you're right, she's completely connected with everyone involved. She's kind of the witness that could blow up in the state's face if they bring her forward. Because yes, the jury's going to want to hear from her, but she's the one who orchestrated all this. She's the one who facilitated all this, whether it's Mr. Turner or Mr. Martin, what have you. This is a woman who's capable of facilitating the murder of her husband, knowing that she's the mother of 6 children. So, and is this coded language that the state believes the cops are saying that is in these text messages, is she the source for their belief of that coded message? And add to this fact, the fact that she's up for parole in 2026 on the facilitation charge makes her toxic. She's going to be the kind of witness that will say anything. Clearly, she'll do anything if she'll murder her husband in order to get out of prison. So it's a really tough witness because it could blow up the state's case. It could make it, but it could blow it up.
Yeah, extremely unpredictable. Her attorney not saying much about what she would or would not say. But Nima, do you call anyone 6 times a day?
No, I do not. I agree with Kirk on this one. I mean, this is a very risky witness, and frankly, you don't need her. You know, you don't want to rely on these types of witnesses. You know, you have 2 convicted murderers, one for facilitation and Cheryl Wright, and obviously, you know, Jimmy Martin, who murdered his girlfriend in another case, so that's why he's cooperating in this one. I think the state has done a very good job getting those co-conspirator statements in. I love this judge. You know, he's really getting into the evidentiary weeds. I've been watching on court TV, and he's really articulating the basis for overruling all the hearsay, all the confrontation clause objections. So the state is getting a lot of these statements in, so why risk it? Don't put Cheryl Wright anywhere near the stand. Play this straight up. You have plenty of evidence, including corroborating forensic evidence, to put these folks away.
Eklund Mercy, what would happen if she came into the courtroom and took that witness stand? I mean, the jury will listen to every single word she says. I know that.
With bated breath. I mean, I want to see it. It's going to be a cataclysmic disaster because you don't know what she's going to say. So it's going to be great entertainment, but just scary for the prosecutor as well as the defense. You don't know what side she's going to go on. And it's actually pretty brilliant that she put herself in that position. So I don't know what she's going to say. I'm going to tune in because it's going to be real good. As Nima said, I do agree with Nima in part that legally, I don't believe that they need any more information. However, how juries are set up right now, they do want, they want the flair, they want the story, they want the nuances, they want the emotional connection, they want it all because they watch it on TV. So it's it's still going to be difficult.
Yeah, Nima, did you notice that right there? She said, I agree with Nima in part. She'll never completely agree with you. That is impossible. It just won't happen. It won't happen.
That's why we love each other, but I'm going to buy a lottery ticket tonight because I think it's a minor miracle that we just saw right here on
miracle.
TV.
All right, this is what we are waiting for, though, folks. Jussie Smollett, the appellate court says that he can get out of jail tonight. We may hear from him. We're waiting for a press conference from Chicago. When it happens, you'll see it and hear it right here on your front row seat to justice. What's he going to say tonight? What is he going to say tonight? Stay tuned to find out. right, everyone, this is a live shot. Cook County Jail in Chicago, Illinois. We are waiting for actor, singer, entertainer, activist, and convicted felon Jussie Smollett to exit the Cook County Jail at any moment, and we expect him to speak. So we're going to keep this shot up. We're going to take it and let you see it all happen live right here tonight on Closing Arguments. And while we wait for this moment, let's bring back in our think tank, Eklund Mercy, Nima Rahmani, and Kirk Nurmi still with us tonight. Yeah, what do you expect to hear from Jussie tonight? Eklund, what is he going to say? I mean, he surprised me a little bit the other day in court.
I don't want him to say anything.
You can't stop him. Come on.
I want him to go into the car. I want him to go into the car and go home. I want him to walk past the reporters, go into his car, and go to his domicile. That is what I want him to do. It is an appeal. There's an appeal bond. That means that the case is still pending. Take yourself to your house. I believe he should go home. He should absolutely go home. Straight to the house.
Kirk Nurmi, you know there are some criminal defendants who just can't stop talking. You wrote a book about one of them, Trapped with Miserius. What do you expect to hear from Jussie tonight?
Well, you know, I agree with Eklund as to what he should do. But you're right, Vinny. We can only advise. We can't control our clients, right? But at most, if he chooses to speak, I think we'll see him once again proclaim his innocence, the wrongness of it all, and that he's going to continue fighting this on appeal, and he's going to thank his lawyers. That's about it. There's about all.
How about the fans? Really he's going to thank the fans, you think? Because I'm sure he has. So I mean, I've seen some of the posts on social media. I mean, there's a lot of people who are still supporting Jussie Smollett and believe he's being made an example of here unnecessarily. So do you think he'll thank his fans too, Kirk?
Yeah, he certainly might do that. I mean, he's going to thank everyone that supports him, et cetera, et cetera. And if he did that and got in the car and drove away like Eklund suggested, there would be no harm. But you never know what kind of harm can be done, right? If he's going to be, he's got to understand that his attorneys are probably making him aware that he needs to keep his mouth shut because he could win this appeal and go on trial again. And that could be a big threat to him after being in jail for about a week now, I guess we're talking about. So maybe if his attorneys are lucky, the jail has humbled him a bit, and he will do as Eklund suggests and get in that car and drive away.
All right, Nima Rahmani, our prosecutors standing by, and they're going to watch this and take notes tonight if he starts speaking?
Of course, absolutely, as they should. Hopefully they'll tell another fairy tale about two white men who were actually black men who attacked him in the middle of downtown Chicago. And, they really did this and made up this story because they were in love with him. So I can't wait to hear the fiction that comes out of Jussie Smollett's mouth when he starts talking after this press conference today.
Yeah, again, folks, you're looking at live shots. This is outside of the Cook County Jail in Chicago. That's where Jussie Smollett was supposed to serve 150 days, but the appeals court today, an emergency motion, had a stay of the sentence. That doesn't mean that they threw out the sentence. It doesn't mean that he's free forever. It means while the appellate court deals with his actual appeal of what happened to him at the trial, he does not have to serve his time behind bars. I'm sure he still would be monitored by probation and have to, have certain conditions, but he's getting out. It's a $150,000 bond, but he doesn't have to post the actual money. I guess he would just owe it if he didn't show up. But I recall, Kirk, and this was interesting, when the judge was putting him on probation, he didn't limit his travel at all. He said, I understand what you do. You may have to go to New York. You may have to go to LA. You're an entertainer. I wonder what would happen, though, Kirk, if he gets out on this bond and he maybe has a concert in South America or, I don't know, has something out of the country. Do you think there'll be any limitations along those lines, or do you think he'll just be free to go and would owe money if he didn't show up when he was supposed to show up?
Yeah, I don't know if the order speaks to that or not, Vinny. That's an important point that you raised, whether he'd be able to, leave the country, actually. That would be the biggest deal. But, when we're talking about, we have to remind ourselves, sometimes he is being made out to be the, heaviest criminal in Chicago history, when it's far from it. This is a low-level felony offense. The idea that he's going to flee the country to South America to avoid the sentencing or possible retrial that comes out of his appeal on a low-level Class 4 felony seems a bit far-fetched to me. So I don't know if the court addressed that specifically, but it seems a bit much in light of everything that is happening.
I will tell you this, though. I mean, it is not a picnic. I mean, 5 days in the Cook County Jail is not a picnic. 15 minutes in that jail is not a picnic. It's 150 days. And we have to remember, Eklund, who, the life that Jussie was living because of his talent, because of let's see, that is not him, nope. Keeping an eye on, again, the Cook County Jail, waiting for Jussie Smollett to be released. But he was making $2 million a year. I mean, that's a different kind of life. I mean, you could own actually more than 2 Teslas if you're making $2 million a year. That's an inside joke. I'm glad some people got it. But for a defendant who is not a lifelong criminal, someone, this is shocking to go from that life to the Cook County Jail.
And unfortunately, it happens often. And we have people who, he has the luxury of having an attorney and that attorney being able to push for his release. But it happens so often. You could be next to somebody who just has some speeding tickets or next to somebody who has a whole murder. So we don't know, because it's the jail, you have no idea what you're going to get. So it is in his best interest to be released on probation. And I don't think, even as the judge knew that. So you acknowledge that he's famous, you acknowledge that people may have some issues, but you still send him to the Cook County Jail and potentially put his life at risk. They kill people in there. People get hurt there. And you just sent a person who sings and dances on television. You sent him to there for 150 days because he lied. It makes no sense.
Well, again, folks, we are looking at live pictures from the Cook County Jail. Jussie Smollett, through an emergency appeal, has earned his release tonight. So we're expecting him to come out at any moment. The guidance coming from his defense team, Joy Lim Nakrin, our Court TV legal correspondent, brought us the information from the defense team. They're expecting around 8:30 or so, but you know how that goes. Processing someone out of a jail, Kirk, sometimes it could be a little bit involved. It's not like checking out of a hotel.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the jailers at the jail are not interested in the timeliness of this press conference. They're going to go at their own pace. They're going to process them out of the jail as they see fit. They're certainly not used to accommodating any inmate on the way out. So we'll see what how fast they process him, and the condition of him when he comes out will be very interesting.
All right, folks, don't go anywhere. We're going to take it's always a short break. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. We've got our eye on the Cook County Jail tonight, waiting for Jussie Smollett to exit jail and address the nation.
cash back in everything you buy.
Welcome back. Live pictures outside of the Cook County Jail, Chicago, Illinois. In the background there, you can see Jussie Smollett's members of his legal team. They are there waiting for the release of their client, Jussie Smollett, a big victory in front of the appeals court to get a stay of his jail sentence. What that means is Jussie Smollett, while his appeal gets heard, however long that takes, he does not have to serve his sentence in jail as the trial judge ordered just a few days ago. So Jussie Smollett, at any moment, we expect him to walk down, meet with members of his team, security, family, whoever else is there tonight. Can't quite make out everyone, some of them wearing masks. But then we expect him to walk forward and address everyone and speak. And in the past, Jussie Smollett has spoken, so I expect him to talk tonight. I expect that we will hear Jussie Smollett talk, perhaps about what it was like in that jail, perhaps talking about his case, talking about justice, talking about the judge. I mean, any of this, it's all basically in play tonight as we wait for Jussie Smollett to exit the Cook County Jail. His team is waiting by. Of course, you will see it all happen right here on Closing Arguments when that moment occurs. This was breaking news earlier tonight. It was an emergency appeal. 3 judges voted 2-1 to let Jussie Smollett out. So what we're going to do, take a break as we wait for this to happen. When we come back, top of the hour, we'll take you back to Chicago so you can see and hear what happens as Jussie Smollett exits the Cook County Jail. Welcome to Closing Arguments. We have big breaking news tonight. Live pictures coming to us from Chicago, Illinois. The Cook County Jail, there it is. Jussie Smollett's supporters, his team, members of his legal team, all situated somewhere near the exit of the Cook County Jail. That's because earlier today, they won an emergency appeal to stay the jail sentence of Jussie Smollett. This is what the family's been waiting for. Obviously, what Jussie Smollett's been wanting is to get out of the Cook County Jail, and he will be out while his appeal gets heard. And we know how long that could take. Folks, I have some people with us. You'll hear their voices as we wait for this moment to happen. Eklund Mercy, criminal defense attorney, Atlanta, Georgia, staying with us. Nima Rahmani, former federal prosecutor. He's in L.A. tonight. Kirk Nurmi, the attorney who represented Jodi Arias, is also with us. You will also hear the voice of Erica Morse, private investigator who's actually in Chicago. Let me see those pictures a little larger. Is that Jussie Smollett coming out of? I think that's him in the middle, folks. I believe that's him. That's got to be him. He has a mask on. We expect that he may very well have something to say tonight on his way out of the jail. Will he talk about the alleged threats? Will he talk about how he was treated? Will he talk about his case? All the questions that we're wondering that should be answered in just a moment, but this has to be him. I recognize that is Jussie Smollett walking out of the jail with his security team tonight. Let's listen.
Jussie, do you have anything to say to the judge?
That, ladies and gentlemen, was a quick exit by Jussie Smollett. Eklund, you're laughing. Why are you laughing?
Oh, because it's the best decision ever. Like, just go.
He was listening.
He was listening. Go to the car.
Let me ask you, Kirk. You've had a client or two in the past that you've gotten out of jail. What is that moment like for them? What's on their mind? And I understand Jussie Smollett a little different than the rest, but is there a yearning to just get as far away from the jail as possible?
I think so on many occasions, and especially someone like Mr. Smollett, who has an experience incarceration or long-term incarceration before, like he experienced, this past week. So I think, he probably is tired. He's been frightened. He's been in a constant state of hypervigilance. He probably just wants to get away from it all. He listened to Eklund. Maybe they've got closing arguments playing in the jail. I don't know. But he listened to Eklund. He listened to his attorneys. He got out of there, and he's going to collect himself. I don't necessarily know that this is the last we're going to hear from him while this appeal is pending. He might get his bearings and do something else in the future. But for now, he made the right decision, and he probably does need a little bit of space from all of it.
Nima, I thought I saw members of his legal team there earlier. They had indicated that they were going to speak. We didn't hear from them. We didn't hear from Jussie. Obviously, could be a change of plans as all this is unfolding. His security team was with him. So give us a realistic look now. We're in the appellate process. Like months, years, what are we talking about?
It's going to be months until the appellate briefs are filed, fully briefed. We're going to obviously hear oral argument. And when we know the issues, some of them are moot now, the COVID issue, the threat issue. But, there are some other appellate issues. And you mentioned it. I mean, Kim Foxx, the double jeopardy issue, it's probably their best argument.
One moment. I hate to interrupt you, Nima, but it looks like his attorneys are speaking. So let's listen in. This is Jussie Smollett's defense team speaking just moments after the release of their client from the Cook County Jail in Chicago.
Does this sound okay, or you want a hardwire?
There's two. Which one? The bottom one.
You want a hardwire? It sounds like that.
Looks like they're still setting things up here. So let's just wait one moment. I did see them as Jussie was going, but Jussie apparently just wanted to go home, but his attorneys will speak for him. That's why you hire an attorney, folks. We used to call them mouthpieces. Now we call them attorneys.
Check. We're good here. I'm sorry. Attorney.
I think they're still getting them mic'd up. They want to make sure their words are heard. But it's really a big day for this defense team. They went to the appellate court on an emergency basis to get Jussie Smollett out. And a lot of times, that is 3/4 of the battle, just getting your client out of jail pending.
Obviously, the Smollett family, they're very, very happy with today's developments. The legal team, Ms. Waddell, Mr. Allen, Ms. Walker, and Mr. Lewis, and myself, we're very elated about this. Let me make something clear. There is no room for politics in our court system, and our appellate courts in this great state do not play politics. Let me make something clear. When this case was initially re-indicted, when this case was prosecuted, when this case was sentenced, at each of those steps, I wondered to myself whether Chicago has seceded from the Union. Because in this country, you cannot punish a person twice. And while everyone was focused on the sensationalism surrounding this case, people were not focused on the constitutionality of the prosecution. And we've been trying to tell everyone that. It is unconstitutional to charge someone twice. Mr. Smollett paid a $10,000 fine. Let me repeat it again, because our appellate courts are listening. Paid a $10,000 fine and did community service. Now, there's no time machine to go back in time to undo those things. His $10,000 fine hasn't even been returned to him, right? And then you re-indict the case and you give him 30 months probation for a Class 4 felony with a man with no criminal record, felony record. 30 months probation, you give him 150 days in jail. You give him what else? You make him do restitution of $120,000, and then you give him the maximum fines. You know, and there's something wrong with that. We've been complaining about the disparate treatment of African Americans in the judicial system, regardless of what you think about this case. Some people might think Mr. Smollett is guilty. I disagree. We all disagree. But that's okay. You're entitled to your opinion. But the real question is, should black men be walked into jail for a Class 4 felony? Shame on you if you think they should. That's a disgrace. It's wrong. We're talking about decarceration in this day and age. The Trump administration, the Obama administration, the Rauner administration in Illinois, and people are still trying to lock black men up, and it's a disgrace. Now, the judge's sentencing, couldn't disagree more with it. The judge spent a great deal of time chastising, berating my client. I've never seen that, and I thought it was unprofessional. That's my personal opinion. Not happy with that. And we look forward, now that this case is gone to the appellate court, to actually having finally an intellectual conversation about the constitutionality of this case. I'm not playing politics. That's all I'll say for now.
How's everybody doing?
Could you spell your name?
Sure. Shay Allen is S-H-A-Y. And it's no coincidence that we're here today. I think we're here because the appellate court realized this was the right thing to do. I hope everyone realizes that the persecution that went on in that courthouse was absurd, and that the sentence was a draconian sentence. It was excessive, and I've always called this case a Class 4 murder. Apparently, this case was more important than the 20% clearance rate of the murders that are here in Chicago. Apparently, any citizen in Chicago, if they want to, if they don't like the decision that this duly elected official makes, can saunter into the courtroom and ask for a special prosecutor. I hope every citizen of Chicago realizes how important this case is, because this could be you. You may think, oh, that's ridiculous, I would never do these things that he's accused of. But you can definitely be charged for something you didn't do. You should never, ever be charged again for something that you had already been prosecuted for. It's important. Do not minimize it. It's not a joke. Thank you.
It should also not be minimized. Yes.
Give your name and spell.
Heather Waddell, W-I-D-E-L-L. it should not be minimized, the issue of being tried in the court of public opinion and having to feel that you need to prove your own innocence. That goes against a major tenet of not just, obviously, Illinois, Cook County, but the United States judicial system. Mr. Smollett had to come into this courtroom 2.5 years after this incident occurred and felt that he needed to prove his own innocence. And again, that's patently unfair. That's not how the system works. It's not how the system should work. And the sentence that Judge Lynn doled out was completely devoid of any sort of intellectual curiosity or prowess. And I think, again, the appellate court, we're very, very much looking forward to having a non-political discourse with them that is intellectual, that's understanding of the laws, that are understanding of what Class 4 felonies mean, what the statutes are designed for by the legislature of this state. And again, moving forward, I hope that everyone understands, like Mr. Allen said, the very important nature of this case and the implications for every single citizen of this state and of this county, that anybody is capable of being charged with a crime. Anybody is capable of being charged with a felony, and you are absolutely entitled to not say a word. You're absolutely entitled to speak in your own defense, and you're absolutely entitled to representation by attorneys. So we're very elated that Mr. Smollett is out, and the work is not finished at this point.
Yeah.
Hello, Tamara Walker, Tamara. We are just pleased, we are overjoyed that the appellate court was able to cut through the politics, to cut through the smoke screen, and was able to understand that we have real, definitive issues for appeal. And that's why they made the decision that they made. This is a very serious issue that any American can lose their presumption of innocence should be an affront to us all. And you all saw during the sentencing how Judge Lynn took it upon himself to not only sentence our client, which is his right as a judge, but to character assassinate him. Let's not forget that the least act of a man is not the measure of a man. And we had letters of support from the NAACP who talked about the disparate treatment that black males receive in the criminal justice system. It is time to have that conversation. And we are elated that the appellate court is able to decipher the legal issues here and apply the correct standard. And we look forward to this process playing out. Thank you.
Questions?
Nene or whoever spoke with Jussie this evening to inform him he was getting out of jail. Tell us about that phone call. What was his reaction?
The first thing Jussie did was he, what separates us in the jail because of COVID is the glass, and he pushed his hands on the glass, and his eyes got teary, and I've never seen that because he's been very strong in there, and he said, I nearly lost hope in our constitutional system. And he did say that. He did say that. And that was his reaction. He was shocked. I think he had nearly given up. I can't speak for him. You would have to ask him that question. But just looking at him, a human to another human, put in a cage for a Class 4 felony. Shame. So I hope the media would actually, instead of leaving here today and reporting about how he walked out and report on the constitutionality. Should the press, the number one defenders of the Constitution, the fourth arm of government, should you be standing by reporting on how, I think this is crazy, Jussie did this, maybe he did this, as opposed to standing there and asking yourselves in your newsroom, is this right? Could this happen to any one of us? Exactly. Could someone come by and say, hey, listen, guys, I grew up in Nigeria under military rule. It's dangerous. We're playing with fire. The idea that a person can be charged twice, report that. Talk about that. The appellate court took a look at our emotions. We submitted it to them. Focus. Stop focusing on sensational stuff. These are not tabloid papers. Focus on the real stuff. Is it right for a person to be punished twice? And I'm going to say, is he getting all this attention because he accused two white men, or according to the media reports, is it because somehow the accusations were about, Jussie said it was a white guy? Is that what's really going on? Because multiple reports, false reports, are made against black men all over the country. Nobody cares. They're under-prosecuted, non-prosecuted. Nobody cares. Why is it this one? What's really going on? Why are people so charged about it? Right? This is ridiculous. And you guys have to start doing your jobs. I've said it before, my father had a Fulbright scholarship in journalism. He was a professor of journalism. Do your job. Get out there, ask the right questions. I'm tired of reading the papers and reading tabloid stuff. Talk about the Constitution, ask the question, should he be charged a second time? I mean, it's frustrating. We've been through a year and a half of nonsense. And it has to stop, guys. Please, focus on the Constitution. Focus on whether this is right. Any other questions? Sorry, it's been long.
When is your next court date? What's the next legal step?
Well, of course, we are going to, right now he's out. We're waiting for further ruling from the appellate court, and we're going to, of course, begin a normal appeal. What we did initially was an emergency appeal, and now we're going to start the will for a regular appeal, and they release the schedule once I make that application. So that's coming soon. Good question.
Could you talk about the timing of this and how getting him out of jail, because the appeal process is so long and he would have easily spent his sentence?
Isn't that scary? Isn't that scary? Isn't that scary? Shouldn't that be frightening to everyone? Because tomorrow it could be anyone's family member. It was really, if I'm understanding your question right, it was a scary moment for us. And even a day spent in jail is scary. He's been here for how long? 6 days? That's scary, right? That's scary. And he hasn't eaten. Guys, he hasn't eaten for 6 days.
Why?
Maybe he knew spiritually something we didn't know, right? So he hasn't eaten for 6 days.
Why?
Well, I'm sorry?
Why hasn't he eaten?
I'm going to find out from him. But maybe being in a cage for a class 4 is enough to make you not to eat. I wouldn't eat either. I'll be upset.
Daniel, what is your relationship?
So hold on, Charles.
I just wanted to ask, he left very quickly. He didn't answer any questions or make any comments. Where is he going? Where is he going to spend his time here?
Come on now. Charlie.
What does Jussie relate to you about his time, his 6 days here in Cook County?
You know, he's been really, really strong. Each time, we've all seen him every day. And each time we've gone in there, he's been very strong. You know, honestly, I expected, going in there, most clients I see in custody, they're usually broken, but he wasn't broken. He isn't broken either. And he's a very strong leader type personality, and he held up in there. He held up in there,
I'm sorry, is he allowed to leave the state? I mean, you don't want to tell us where he's going, but is he allowed?
Question. Is he staying in Chicago?
I'm not going to answer that. Well, just wait. I'm sure somebody from the family is going to talk soon.
But legally, has it been said that he can leave the state or not?
Well, yes. When the judge gave him probation, he allowed him to travel and stuff, right? So the answer to that question is an absolute yes.
So he has not eaten, or he's eaten very little?
No, he's been drinking ice cold water. Ice water. That's been his food and liquid.
Is this a protest? Is this, what's the...
Charlie, if you were in jail for something you didn't do, would you eat or would you be I don't know. I know, Charlie. I don't know. I really don't know, and I'm going to get you those answers. I'm sure Jussie, someone from his family at some point will make a statement, but I don't know. But I can only imagine if I was in jail for something I didn't do, or I thought I was in jail and the sentence was too harsh, I doubt I'll be eating. I think food is the last thing I'll be thinking about. Any other questions and we're done? Okay?
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, folks. All this talk about eating. We got a lot to chew on tonight. So we're going to take a quick break. They're always quick. When we come back, we'll bring back in our think tank. We also have Erica Morse with us. She's in Chicago. A lot to talk about. He brought up some great issues. Some things I agree with, some things I disagree with. But we're going to talk about it all. Was he sentenced to jail because he's black? Was this a case of double jeopardy? Is there a constitutional argument here? We'll break it all down when we return. right, folks, this happened just moments ago. Jussie Smollett
Can you tell us what the past week has been like?
leaving the Cook County Jail, not answering
do you have
any
anything to say to the
questions,
judge?
quickly getting into his SUV with security and heading home. He's out of jail tonight. An emergency appeal won by his legal team. They just spoke. They indicated he hasn't eaten in 6 days. But in that press conference that his legal team had, they brought up a lot of issues. You know, took a shot at the press, the way the story's been covered in the papers in Chicago and around the country. There's a lot of things. And they made some points that I agreed with, some that I disagreed with. But let's talk about it all. We've got a great, great panel with us. It's like our supersized think tank tonight in our second hour. Eklund Mercy is with us, criminal defense attorney in Atlanta, Georgia. Nima Rahmani, former federal prosecutors in Los Angeles. Kirk Nurmi in Phoenix, Arizona, the attorney who represented Jodi Arias, author of Trapped with Ms. Arias. And Erica Morse, who's a private investigator in Chicago. So she's one of the victims of Smollett's case. Eklund, just so you know, because it was the city of Chicago that was the victim in all this. All right, there's a bunch of things that I'm going to hit all of you with different types of questions to address everything that was addressed by the defense team. Eklund Mercy, I'll start with you. Jussie Smollett was sentenced to jail because he's black. That's what they were saying. Really? Do we believe that? Or are they trying to do something here?
Yes, because he got more time than insurrections. And that's what they're doing. Oh, so let me tell you, being a black attorney...
No, he didn't get more time.
Right now,
I know you're bringing it back to January 6th. There are people... No, wait.
I didn't
There are people in jail...
I got to finish the thought.
Okay.
And what I'm trying to tell you is that as a black attorney practicing in these times, and you are seeing different cases, and your particular case is feeling like, hey, they're just making him an example. Yes, the only thing that is different from him is, like, you have to consider it. Systematic racism is real, and it happens often. What he was trying to tell him is, like, they didn't even consider the double jeopardy argument initially, and it's frustrating. So he has to fight the case in the court of public opinion. He has to fight the case in the actual court, and you also have to fight the case and prepare for appeal. It gets frustrating. You know, and it's not because he's a black man in Chicago. And he did bring up a great point, because nobody can tell him why the judge went so hard. So they had to go on their necks. And I am here for all of it. Because initially, he told you, he paid the fine. He paid the fine. He did a community service. Case closed, and you came back.
We're gonna get to that. I'm gonna break them down one at a time, all the issues here. Erica Morse, I want to go to you on this because you're in Chicago. And one of the things that his attorney was saying, this could happen to any one of us. And I was thinking about it a couple different ways. And I want to reference what Eklund just said, which was originally, after he was indicted, the charges were just like poof, they went away. They were dismissed. And there was no, he did some vague community service that we don't even know about, and a $10,000 fine. I mean, would that happen to anyone who was indicted in Chicago? Does the prosecutor just kind of like poof in the middle of the day, just dismiss cases without a guilty plea in a courtroom?
Nah. And that's why I'm going to tell you tonight, Vinnie, why the people I've talked to and me, we're upset with the state's attorney on this one. Because if you followed not only her behavior from the beginning, then this almost what feels like a secretive plea deal, and then this abhorrent op-ed that she penned calling this entire trial mob justice against Jussie Smollett is just disgusting. The people that I've talked to and I myself feel that she would have made a great defense attorney for Jussie Smollett, but not representing the citizens of Cook County, certainly not representing CPD, and definitely not representing every family of every victim who suffered as a result result of all these wasted resources while Jussie Smollett was out perpetrating this hoax. And I'm going to say something else. Don't go about the court of public opinion. I've been a reporter for 30 years, and what an insult to tell us how to do our jobs. But talk about the court of public opinion and him not getting a fair trial. I firmly remember Jussie running up to the cameras, talking to the cameras, and using the court of public opinion to sell this story and this hoax in the first place. I'm ticked tonight. I'm ticked.
Now, let's get to the big legal argument, the constitutional argument, and I'll start with you, Nima Rahmani, because you're a former federal prosecutor. Double jeopardy is a real thing, right? You can't be prosecuted twice for the same crime. So was this initial indictment and dismissal a prosecution or not? Because they're claiming that he was punished for it with a $10,000 fine and some community service. I don't remember him being in a courtroom pleading guilty. I just know that the indictment was dismissed. So is that an actual prosecution, which would then bar, under our Constitution, a second prosecution?
Vinnie, it's a very good legal argument. And we've talked about some terrible ones like COVID, the threats, but absolutely, he forfeited that bail. And I agree with Erica. Kim Foxx completely not only dropped the ball here, she sabotaged Special Prosecutor Dan Webb's case. So if the appellate court based its decision on double jeopardy and not the other things that we've been talking about for the past hour and a half, I think Smollett has a good chance of getting this conviction overturned. And you know, what Fox did in this case, what the prosecutor did in the Cosby case to really tank that case. And obviously, we're talking about two very difficult, different sides of the political spectrum. But really, you do have prosecutors acting as defense attorneys. You know, exactly what Erica said. We have one in Chicago and we have one in my hometown of Los Angeles. So with prosecutors like this, who needs defense attorneys?
Yeah, Kirk, your thoughts about the double jeopardy? Because that's serious. That's super serious. That is our Constitution. It says you cannot be prosecuted twice for the same crime.
Yeah, I agree with exactly what Nima said. I mean, if this was dismissed, whether it goes in a court of law and pleads to it or not, there's all kinds of diversion programs across the nation, et cetera, that crimes like this lower level, keep in mind we're talking about a class 4 felony, what would be a misdemeanor in a lot of states. And if he paid a price, meaning a monetary price, he did community service, what have you, and that was satisfactory to the prosecuting authorities, to me, that's game over. I don't even understand why we're here, because that jeopardy does attach at that point that he pays a punishment for it. If it was just contemplated and he didn't pay the price, maybe the water would be a little more muddy. But to me, this seems very clear, Vinnie. There was a choice to prosecute. There was some sort of diversion. Whatever anybody wants to think of the justice of that diversion, that is what the prosecutor chose, and that's what the prosecutors have the discretion to do. It's not acting like a defense attorney. Prosecutors have broad discretion. So Ms. Fox exercised that discretion, saw this case was what it was for, probably didn't want to invoke fear on people reporting hate crimes in the future in the streets of Chicago as what resulted when this sentence was delivered, not to mention the 45-minute diatribe attacking Mr. Smollett's character. So yes, I think this is a very good argument. And ultimately, I agree with Nima. If this is the grounds that the Court of Appeals overturns his conviction, they will be well suited to do so.
All right, Eklund, we only have like 20 seconds, but I want to get you in on the legal double jeopardy argument as well.
Yeah, well, as a defense attorney, we have this all the time. Certain things get indicted. I say, hey, you know, my client had some issues. Let's just, and we have deals with the prosecutor. You do some community service. I'll talk to you later. You know, you do some community service, you pay a fine, then we'll drop the indictment. Like, it happens so often, and it's like a handshake. It's there. It's in order. It's null pros. It's dismissed. You can go. And then after doing that to save money, to save in the interest of judicial economy, it happens often. And then to come back and then just reel him and then it's wrong. It's wrong. I do agree with Kirk. And I believe that I couldn't see. It's wrong. And I agree with Kirk. And I believe that the defense attorneys were right in this case.
We shall see. They'll have a shot with the appellate court. Big thank you, everyone, tonight. Eklund, Nima, Kirk, and, of course, Erica Morse. Thank you. Whew, what a night. Still ahead. In San Diego, California, officers go after a suspected car thief and things escalate. We break down this case with our own law enforcement experts. And in Volusia County, Florida, another theft suspect is taken down by a canine. We take a look at the video during crime time.
Free for 30 days.
It is crime time here on Closing Arguments. Let's bring in tonight's guests. Joining me, former New York City Assistant Commissioner, former NYPD Sergeant Special Assignment, Dr. Keith Taylor. Keith served for 26 years as a public safety professional. He has supervised internal affairs, missing persons, emergency service unit, and Federal Emergency Management Agency urban search and rescue teams. And he is an adjunct assistant professor in the Department of Law, Police Science, and Criminal Justice Administration at John Jay College. Also with us, former gang homicide detective Donald Schweitzer. Donald was a police officer for 10 years. He's investigated gang homicides as a detective, served as a member of the SWAT unit, and worked various narcotics assignments. Dr. Keith Taylor, Donald Schweitzer, great to have you both with us. And oh yeah, Donald, now practicing law. You see those books right over his shoulder, folks. I always have to point it out. I remember looking at those books.
You don't have to do that, Vinnie.
Every day, but every day I used to look through those books. Oh, it was in law school, then as a young attorney. Okay, first story tonight comes us out of San Diego, the San Diego County Sheriff's Office. Deputies end up shooting an auto theft suspect.
Robert, do you need a break?
I'm good for a little bit of medics are here.
Incredibly dangerous situation. And moving cars, really, what we're talking about here. Let's talk about moving cars as a deadly weapon in all these circumstances. Dr. Keith Taylor, your thoughts about what we just saw?
Yeah, I know different jurisdictions have different priorities regarding how moving cars are treated by law enforcement. But in New York City, at least, moving vehicle alone is not sufficient for the use of a firearm by a uniformed member of service. But ultimately, what the officer has to determine is, does letting this suspect go represent a larger threat to society and the community than encountering them with the use of deadly force. So there are lots of extenuating circumstances that might make shooting at a driver difficult, particularly if they have some sort of medical condition or language barrier or some sort of drug interaction that does not allow them to comply with the orders of the law enforcement officer. But you're not allowed to run officers over with vehicles, and that is the line.
Donald Schweitzer, your thoughts about this one?
You know, Vinnie, in California, as in most states, anything could be a deadly weapon. You know, your fist in certain circumstances could be deadly weapons under the law. Certainly a big, powerful vehicle can be. And in this case, this car not only tried to, when it was backwards, it almost ran over those two officers, but when it was moving forward, you could see all of the potential victims that were in the way. Fortunately, one of the officers pulled a passenger away so that, the car didn't run her over. This also shows how dangerous it is to extract people from a car. You see this every once in a while in your program where officers are trying to take people out of cars and they're put in reverse, and look what happens. I mean, it could actually really hurt the officers that are just trying to arrest the person, and then chaos. So it's an extremely dangerous situation because of the vehicle here.
Absolutely. All right, Dr. Keith Taylor, Donna Schweitzer staying with us. We've got more crime time straight ahead, including officers chasing a fugitive down in Flagler County, Florida. And welcome back to our Crime Time segment. Still with us, Dr. Keith Taylor and Donald Schweitzer. Next story comes to us down from the Sunshine State, Florida, a Flagler County Sheriff's Office. And the officers there are chasing a fugitive suspect in car and then on foot.
My earth green Cadillac, Indian 16 is going to be behind it in an unmarked gray Ford Focus. Yeah, going behind it. 10-4.
Let me see your hands! Hands!
Do not do anything I don't tell you to do. Keep walking.
All right, Harrison, stop. Punske, you got verbals.
Hey, he's talking to another occupant. Keep coming. Keep coming.
You guys ready?
Yep.
I'm just gonna go straight up to the driver door. You guys just peel off, all right?
Yep.
There's pillows back here. Hold on. Pull the door. Just pull the door. It's quick.
Can you just shine a light in here? I want to do one more.
All right. This was someone who was known to be armed. How does that change the equation for you, Donald Schweitzer, when you're chasing down someone that you know is armed?
You know, it's just a heightened alert. I think that anytime there is a chase with a police officer, you have to be afraid that there could be a weapon. But when you know that there's a weapon, you're going to put more distance between yourself and the suspect, and you're going to be really, really careful to take cover every chance you can. You know, one thing that I really appreciated in the police academy was the tactics that they taught us on how to do a felony car stop. In this case, you see these officers doing everything right. If they're hiding behind the vehicle, they're giving the commands. And they brought this guy to justice without any incident. It was a good job by them.
Yeah, Dr. Keith Taylor, there we see him thrown out. I think that's a spike strip, right? In case the car takes off, just runs over it, and then no more. You have 4 flat tires.
Yeah, and I really love the verbalizing, the communication that was going on. You heard it, what was in essence a tactical plan for that situation, agreement on what each officer was going to do in terms of who was going to apprehend, who was going to provide firearms coverage. So it was a job well done, and it's that type of collaboration, cooperation of officers that helps avoid unfortunate incidents regarding things like friendly fire situations.
Yeah, and we see the range of them here, and I do that purposely during this segment. You know, sometimes we see things when they go a little bit wrong. Sometimes we see when everything goes right, and that seemed to happen here. Okay, we've got one more video for you tonight. This one comes from Volusia County, Florida. The sheriff down there, they're always busy. You've got an officer and a canine here taking down a suspect.
We do have felony charges that they're going to pursue charges on. 5-622, yes, sir, we do.
I don't think I'll check. Yeah, he's not alerting to it, but just give it a check. Show me your hands! Show me your hands! Show me your hands! Stay right there! Stay right there! Do not move! Stay right there! Hold on. Stay right there. Yep. Stay right there. Walk out to me! Walk out to me now! Walk up to them! You tell them run! I'm gonna send this on you! Yeah, good boy, good boy. Good boy. You caught the bad man, come on. Yeah, good buddies, huh?
Very interesting. Kind of get a sneak peek of that relationship between the officer and his canine. But how valuable are the canine officers here? Dr. Keith Taylor.
Very valuable. The dogs are bred for their intelligence and strength. The shepherds especially are good for apprehension. You have dogs that are utilized for detection of things like drugs and for people, search and rescue. They are very incredible animals that can help with a range of different types of searches. Their noses have 225 million receptors, scent receptors. Our noses have 5 million. So that shows you the difference and the unique precision with which they can operate.
Absolutely, and that precision, Donald Schweitzer, is so important because you want to make sure if you let them loose that they're going after the bad guys, not the good guys.
Yeah, Vinny, you know, these dogs are also very expensive, and unfortunately, there's a lot of municipalities that don't have them, but they're worth their weight in gold. These dogs can search and capture people. You know, they could do the work of several officers, and they do the most dangerous work. Look what this dog was doing. It was going into a wooded area or a bushy area to try to locate this guy. And I think we should also recognize that the handler of this dog did a great job of not releasing him. He gave the guy an opportunity to surrender, and he probably saved the guy some injuries.
Absolutely, because we have seen some cases where there have been allegations that the use of the canine was not necessary under certain circumstances, but a great job by the Volusia County Sheriff's Office. Great job by Dr. Keith Taylor and Donald Schweitzer. Thank you both so much. We'll see you again real soon. Come back, folks. I need your help right after this.